Most people don't fail because they're not trying hard enough. They fail because they're stuck in a loop, doing everything except what actually sets them free. You say you want to grow, to become a better version of yourself. But why does the thought of real change burn so much? Why does letting go of old habits, toxic people, or comfortable chaos feel like ripping off your own skin? Maybe it's not failure you fear. Maybe it's finally stepping into your potential. Because that would mean no more excuses, no more pretending you're fine, no more hiding behind someday. And let's be honest, staying the same is easier. Familiar pain is easier to manage than unfamiliar power. But it's slowly draining you. You're not exhausted from the hustle. You're exhausted from carrying a version of yourself that's outgrown who you really are. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." It's not about talking change, it's about living it right now. So in this video, we're not chasing shallow upgrades. We're going deeper. We're stripping away what's false and rebuilding something solid, using timeless wisdom from Stoicism and grounded tools that actually work. Not hype, not hustle, just truth. And listen, don't skip through this. Every part of what you're about to hear connects. If you've ever felt stuck, like you're meant for more but can't quite reach it, stay with me. This might be exactly what you've needed. And if what we're doing here helps you see yourself more clearly, helps you take even one step closer to who you're meant to be, do me a simple favor. Tap that subscribe button. It costs nothing, but it means everything. Let's take this next step together. Your future starts right here. Step 1. Picture the life you actually want. Most people are stuck not because they're lazy, but because they're unclear. They drift through life reacting to whatever's loudest, texts, deadlines, drama, without ever stepping back to ask, is this the life I actually want? And that question matters more than we realize. Because if you don't choose your direction, the world will choose it for you. You'll spend years chasing goals that weren't even yours to begin with, climbing ladders that lead to nowhere. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you don't have a consistent goal in life, you can't live it in a consistent way." It's not just about having dreams, it's about having a clear, conscious vision that pulls you out of bed in the morning and anchors you when things get tough. So, take a moment and ask yourself, what does your version of a fulfilling life look like? Strip away the noise. Forget what you're told you should want. What do you want? Do you see yourself working in a calm, creative space? Traveling more? Raising a family? Building a business that actually makes a difference? Now go deeper. What does your ideal morning feel like? Who's around you? What kind of energy fills the room when you walk in? These aren't just fantasies, they're the blueprint. And without one, you're like a ship without a compass, afloat, but directionless. Carl Jung talked about the individuation process, the lifelong task of becoming who you truly are. But you can't become what you haven't imagined. Visualization isn't wishful thinking, it's self-alignment. It's the act of mentally rehearsing who you're becoming so that your brain starts recognizing that version as real. Neuroscience supports this. The more clearly and consistently you imagine something, the more your brain begins to hardwire the behaviors to match it. That's not magic, it's mental muscle memory. So grab a notebook or open your notes app. No one's watching. Get brutally honest and write it all down. Who do you want to be? What does that version of you do daily? What do they avoid? How do they think, speak, rest, love, lead? Be specific, vivid, visual. That clarity becomes your North Star. Because when life inevitably gets loud and messy, it's that vision you'll return to. It's what reminds you why you started. You don't have to have all the answers yet, but you do need a direction. And that starts by finally asking the question most people avoid. What kind of life am I really trying to build? Step 2. Bet on yourself, even when it's scary. Ever notice how fast you talk yourself out of things? Before you even try, that voice in your head has already told you why it won't work. I'm not smart enough. Someone else is already doing it. What if I fail and look stupid? Sound familiar? That voice doesn't just whisper, it shouts. It questions your worth. It highlights every flaw, every stumble, every scar. And if you're not careful, it becomes your truth. But here's something ancient Stoics understood deeply. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And if you keep soaking yourself in self-doubt, don't be surprised when everything starts looking gray. The real enemy isn't failure. It's the belief that you're not allowed to succeed, that you don't deserve a better life. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Because when you do, the excuses start to lose power. You stop waiting for permission. You stop needing someone to validate your potential. You stop outsourcing your confidence to other people's opinions." That's what betting on yourself looks like. It's scary, raw, and uncomfortable, but it's necessary. See, self-belief isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to act before the answers arrive. It's choosing to start the business, join the gym, write the first chapter, apply for the job, even when you feel unqualified. Because you know what? Most people are making it up as they go anyway. The difference is, some start walking while others are still obsessing over the map. And yes, you'll feel shaky. You'll second-guess yourself. That's part of it. Confidence isn't a switch, it's a skill. It's built every time you do the thing you told yourself you couldn't do. Like a muscle, belief gets stronger with reps. The more often you challenge the doubt, the weaker it becomes. So when that voice creeps in, saying you're not ready, you meet it with action. You say, maybe not, but I'm going anyway. Betting on yourself doesn't mean you'll never fail. It means you stop treating failure like a finish line. It means you're finally tired of sitting on the sidelines of your own life. So ask yourself, if you don't believe in your own story, why would anyone else? This isn't about ego, it's about ownership. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop letting fear make every decision. You are your own best investment. And the return on that belief, that's where everything changes. Step 3. Set goals that don't suck the life out of you. Let's be honest, goal setting has become this overhyped, anxiety-inducing ritual where people write down 10 massive things they want to do and then beat themselves up when they don't hit them by Friday. Sound familiar? We've all done it. You get pumped up, set a wild goal like, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m., meditate for an hour, run 5 miles, write a book, and cook quinoa for lunch. And by day 2, you're already back to snoozing your alarm and questioning your entire existence. Why? Because the goals weren't designed for real life. They were designed for a fantasy version of you. That's not motivation. That's self-sabotage disguised as ambition. The Stoics had a different approach. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Notice that? It starts with clarity, not pressure. Goals shouldn't drain you, they should guide you. That's where micro goals come in. Tiny wins, daily reps, habits so simple they feel almost laughable, until you look up one day and realize you've changed. Let's say you want to improve your health. Don't start with marathon training. Start with walking around the block after dinner. Want to become a reader? Don't force yourself through a dense philosophy book in one sitting. Read 1 page, just one. Because here's the thing, your brain needs proof before it believes change is possible. Small wins are that proof. They say, "Hey, look, you did that. You're becoming the type of person who does that." And once your identity starts to shift, the bigger changes don't feel so impossible anymore. Carl Jung believed that real transformation doesn't happen through sudden enlightenment, but through consistent engagement with the small, often overlooked aspects of daily life. When you show up for your small goals, even when no one's watching, you build something sacred: self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation for everything else. But here's the catch. Your goals have to match your current energy and reality, not your ego. Be honest about what season you're in. Some phases of life are for sprinting, others are for slow building. Don't confuse being patient with being passive. Progress is still progress, even if it's quiet. So set goals that respect your humanity, goals that make room for your messy days, your tired mornings, your detours. Because the more achievable your goals feel, the more likely you are to keep showing up. And that consistency, that's what builds momentum. Not giant leaps, but steady, intentional steps. You don't need to shock your system. You just need to stop quitting on yourself every time it doesn't look perfect. Step 4. Show up, even when you don't feel like it. Let's face it, waiting until you feel like doing something is the fastest way to never do it. We all know that spark of motivation comes and goes. One day you're hyped up, planning your new routine, making to-do lists like a productivity guru. The next day, you can't even find the energy to answer a text. That's real. That's human. But here's the catch. Growth doesn't care how you feel. And the people who make it further in life? They're not running on constant inspiration. They're running on discipline, on commitment, on something deeper than feeling ready. Marcus Aurelius put it best. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work," as a human being. That's the Stoic approach. Duty over mood. Show up not because you're hyped, but because it's who you are training yourself to be. Think about that. You're not just brushing your teeth, writing that email, or doing that workout. You're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Every single action, even the smallest one, is a signal to your brain. I show up for myself. Carl Jung talked about the integration of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we tend to ignore or avoid. Showing up when you're tired, unmotivated, anxious. That's shadow work. That's meeting the parts of yourself that resist and saying, "You're still coming with me." Because true self-mastery isn't about being in the mood all the time. It's about honoring your direction, even on the days when everything inside you says, "Let's just scroll instead." Think about it this way. If you only act when it feels easy, you're building your life on the most unstable foundation possible, your emotions. And emotions are like weather, beautiful one moment, stormy the next. But habits, actions, they're bricks. They build, they last, and they don't require perfect conditions to lay another one down. So start showing up even when it's ugly, even if it's just a 5-minute walk, a single page in your journal, one healthy meal. That tiny action holds weight. It keeps the momentum alive. It keeps your identity aligned with your intention. Because when you say, "I'm too tired," and then you still do it anyway, that's not just a win. That's power. That's you becoming undeniable. Don't wait for a magical wave of inspiration to carry you into action. Be the wave. Be the one who shows up in the rain, in the fog, when nobody's watching. That's how trust is built. That's how progress becomes inevitable. And that's how you slowly stop being the person who plans to change and start becoming the one who actually does. Step 5. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Let's be real. If growth felt good, everyone would be doing it. But most people don't grow, not because they're incapable, but because they want the reward without the discomfort. They want confidence without vulnerability, strength without struggle, success without sacrifice. But that's not how it works. Growth is uncomfortable by design. It has to be, because it's in the tension, the friction, the messiness, where we get reshaped into something stronger, wiser, and more whole. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." They saw adversity not as a punishment, but as preparation. A sculptor doesn't resent the resistance of the marble. It's what allows him to shape it. You are that marble. Life is shaping you, and every awkward conversation, failed attempt, or stretch outside your comfort zone is another stroke of the chisel. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And he wasn't being dramatic, he was being honest. If you're not willing to feel discomfort, you're not ready to wake up. Real transformation isn't a glow-up montage. It's a process of breaking, unlearning, and rebuilding. It's admitting you don't have all the answers. It's sitting with uncertainty and still choosing to move forward. It's facing fears that make your hands shake and doing the thing anyway. Think back to the last challenge you faced, the real kind, the one that tested your patience, your pride, maybe even your identity. At the time, it probably felt unfair. Maybe it hurt like hell. But now, look at what it gave you. Maybe it forced you to draw boundaries. Maybe it taught you how to fight for yourself. Maybe it revealed a strength you didn't know you had. That's the gift discomfort gives us. It introduces us to parts of ourselves that comfort could never reach. So the next time you feel resistance, don't rush to escape it. Lean in, get curious, ask, what's the lesson here? What's this pressure trying to pull out of me? Because pressure doesn't just show up to crush you, it shows up to carve you, to strip away what's no longer needed and reveal the real you underneath. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's the doorman to every version of yourself you haven't met yet. And once you understand that, you stop fearing the stretch. You welcome it, because you know, deep down, that you're not here to stay the same. You're here to evolve, and evolution never happens in the comfort zone. Step 6. Build habits that match your future self. It's wild how much of your life is built on autopilot. Think about it. Your mornings, your food choices, the way you respond to stress or boredom. It's all driven by patterns you don't even think about anymore. That's the power of habits. They're not flashy or loud, but they're quietly shaping your identity every single day. And here's the kicker. Most of us don't even choose them. We just inherit them from survival mode, social media, childhood, convenience. Then we wake up one day wondering why we feel stuck, overwhelmed, or unfulfilled. But your habits are like votes. You're either casting them for the person you want to become or for the person you're trying to outgrow. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus reminded us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, start with the vision, then match your behavior to that vision, one small action at a time. If the future version of you is calm, focused, healthy, and grounded, what habits would that person practice daily? Start there. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. That's not discipline. That's burnout disguised as ambition. Carl Jung believed the unconscious rules much of our daily behavior, and until we make those unconscious patterns conscious, we will continue to be ruled by them and call it fate. Your habits are the expression of your unconscious beliefs. So if your routines are chaotic, avoidant, numbing, or passive, it's not because you're lazy, it's because something inside you is still aligned with the old you. But habits are how you start rewriting that internal script. So here's the move. Pick one habit. Just one. Make it so simple, you can't say no to it. Maybe it's journaling for 5 minutes. drinking a glass of water before your coffee, turning off your phone an hour before bed, stretching instead of scrolling, saying no to that thing you always say yes to out of guilt. Whatever it is, make it doable. Because the goal isn't perfection, it's identity reinforcement. Every time you follow through, you're showing yourself, this is who I am now. And the beauty of it, these little wins compound. It's like stacking bricks. Eventually you look back and realize you've built an entirely new foundation. But you didn't get there through willpower alone. You got there through design, through intentional, conscious choices made on days when you felt both strong and weak. That's where real power lives. So if you want to become someone different, start behaving like that person before you feel like them. Let your habits lead. Let them build momentum. Let them whisper to your nervous system, we're safe now, we're growing, because the person you're becoming, they're waiting on the other side of your daily choices, and every tiny habit is a doorway to that version of you. Step through it, one simple action at a time. Step 7. Fail smarter, not harder. Let's talk about something that messes with almost everyone: failure. Just the word can make your stomach twist, right? We're taught to fear it, to avoid it, to hide it, like it's this giant neon sign that says, you're not good enough. But that's not the truth. That's just the story you were told by a system obsessed with perfection. What if failure isn't proof that you're broken, but proof that you're trying, that you had the guts to put yourself out there while everyone else was too scared to even begin? The Stoics had zero tolerance for the drama of failure. They believed in accepting what happens and responding with reason, not emotion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love, to fail." Yes, to fail. Because failure is not an interruption of the path, it is the path. Every misstep holds information. Every letdown, every rejection, every embarrassing moment, that's data. It's guidance. It's a mirror showing you what still needs work. Carl Jung offered a powerful truth. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. When you fail, you come face to face with your own shadows, your ego, your fears, your blind spots. But instead of hiding from them, what if you looked closer? What if you used those moments not to shame yourself, but to understand yourself? Because the goal isn't to avoid mistakes, it's to mine them for wisdom. Think about the last time something went completely sideways, a goal that flopped, a risk that didn't pay off, a conversation that blew up in your face. You probably wanted to disappear. But now, looking back, was it really a failure? Or was it a turning point? A teacher in disguise? Because here's the truth. Real failure only happens when you refuse to learn. When you let it define you instead of refine you. Failing smarter means asking better questions. Not, why am I such a mess? But, what was this trying to show me? Not, I'll never get it right. But, what can I do differently next time? That shift in perspective is where the power lives. It's how you take your pain and turn it into a plan. And listen, this isn't about glamorizing struggle. Failing still stings. It bruises your pride. It makes you question your worth. But when you stop taking failure personally, you start using it professionally. You become the kind of person who can fall 7 times and rise 8, not because you're fearless, but because you understand what the fall was for. So don't be afraid to mess up. Be afraid of staying the same. Be afraid of letting fear of failure keep you locked in a version of life that no longer fits. Your bounce-back game is everything. Your ability to stand up, take notes, and try again. That's your superpower. So fail forward, fail boldly, and fail in the direction of your growth. Because that's not falling apart, that's leveling up. Step 8. Edit your circle ruthlessly. Ever felt drained after a conversation that didn't even seem that deep? Like you left feeling heavier, a little more doubtful, a little more off-center? That's not random, it's residue. The kind of energy you're around leaves a mark. And whether you realize it or not, the people closest to you are shaping your mindset, your habits, your self-worth. Not by force, but by frequency. Who you talk to, who you listen to, who you joke with, they become mirrors, reinforcing who you believe you are. So the real question is, do your people reflect who you were or who you're trying to become? The Stoics had a clear stance on this. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is a mutual one. We learn as we teach." Your circle should elevate you, not just entertain you. You don't need people who are perfect, but you do need people who are intentional, people who are doing the work, who take accountability, who don't flinch at growth, even when it's uncomfortable. If your environment is filled with gossip, blame, and mediocrity, it's not neutral. It's toxic, and eventually you'll absorb it without even noticing. Carl Jung warned us of the collective unconscious, the invisible psychological patterns we absorb from the groups we're a part of. If you hang around people who avoid responsibility, play the victim, or live in perpetual complaint, it won't be long before you start echoing their behaviors, not because you're weak, but because you're human. We adapt, we match energy. So if you want to grow, you have to start treating your inner circle like sacred ground, because it is. And look, editing your circle isn't about being cold or cutting people off without compassion. It's about alignment. Are these people helping me become more honest, more disciplined, more alive? Or are they encouraging the parts of me I'm trying to let go of? Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is outgrow people without hating them. You can love someone and still realize their energy no longer fits where you're headed. That's where solitude comes in. Most people fear being alone because they've never used it properly. But being alone with intention, that's where you reconnect with your values. That's where you reset. That's where you remember who you are without all the noise. As the saying goes, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. Because silence is better than chaos. Peace is better than fake support. And being alone is 1,000,000 times better than being surrounded by people who secretly root for your stagnation. So do an audit. No drama, no big announcement. Just a quiet, internal evaluation. Who energizes you? Who drains you? Who challenges you to rise? And who quietly pulls you down? Upgrade accordingly. Don't apologize for protecting your energy. Your environment is either helping you evolve or keeping you on repeat. You get to choose what plays. Step 9. Count your wins, not just your worries. Ever notice how your brain loves to replay what went wrong? That one awkward moment, that missed opportunity, the thing you should have said but didn't. We fixate on flaws. It's like our minds are wired to highlight the gaps, not the gains. And while some of that comes from survival instincts, scanning for danger, avoiding pain, it becomes a problem when it's all we see. Because if you're only measuring what's missing, you'll never feel like you're enough. You'll never notice how far you've actually come. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." That's not just poetic, it's practical, it's a mindset shift. Gratitude isn't about ignoring your problems, it's about balancing the lens. It's about saying, yeah, things are tough, but look at what's still here. Look at what's still possible. You start to realize that abundance isn't some distant reward. It's already woven into the ordinary. You just have to pause long enough to see it. Carl Jung also believed that perception shapes reality. What you focus on expands. If you constantly zoom in on chaos, your life will feel chaotic. If you begin to spot moments of beauty, connection, progress, even in the smallest forms, your nervous system recalibrates. You stop living in panic mode. You start living in presence. Try this. At the end of your day, write down 3 wins. They don't have to be big. Maybe you drank more water than usual. Maybe you set a boundary. Maybe you didn't spiral after that email. That's a win. Maybe you just got out of bed and showed up for life when it would have been easier to hide. That's a win too. Don't underestimate the quiet victories. They're often the most transformative. Gratitude rewires your brain to look for hope. It's not a passive feeling, it's a skill, one that needs practice. When you actively count your blessings, you shift your internal dialogue from "I'm not doing enough" to "I am progressing." That shift builds momentum. It builds resilience. It builds inner peace. And no, this doesn't mean you slap a smile on pain or pretend everything's fine when it's not. Stoicism doesn't deny suffering. It integrates it. It teaches us that joy and hardship can exist in the same breath. You can be grateful and grieving. You can be healing and hopeful. You can feel lost and still notice the beauty of a sunset or the warmth of a cup of tea in your hands. So stop waiting for your life to be perfect before you feel proud. Look around. What's working? What have you survived? What can you appreciate right now in this moment without needing anything to change? Because when you count your wins, no matter how small, you give yourself the permission to feel worthy. And that's not fluff. That's power. Step 10. Never stop leveling up. There's this idea floating around that one day you'll arrive, that if you read enough books, hit the right milestones, master the perfect routine, you'll finally be done, fixed, complete. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. There is no finish line. There is no ultimate version of you that once unlocked means you never struggle again. Growth doesn't have an end game. It's not a level you beat. It's a lifestyle. You don't become your best self once. You keep becoming. That's the real path, not perfection, not completion, evolution. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't believe in becoming finished. They believed in becoming disciplined, in staying teachable. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." The moment you decide you've got it all figured out is the moment you stop growing. And let's be real, that mindset is dangerous. It breeds ego. It blinds you to your blind spots. It makes you comfortable. And comfort, if left unchecked, turns into stagnation. Carl Jung also warned about this. He believed that wholeness was never about reaching some ideal version of the self. It was about constantly integrating the parts of ourselves we hadn't yet faced. The shadow, the insecurity, the forgotten dreams. Leveling up doesn't just mean becoming stronger. It means becoming truer, more honest, more real. That's the kind of growth that doesn't just improve your life, it transforms it. So how do you keep leveling up? You stay curious. You stay humble enough to say, "I don't know everything." You read the book. Ask the questions. Try the thing that scares you. You let discomfort guide you, not stop you. Because every time you stretch beyond what's familiar, you expand. Not just in skill, but in soul. You start to feel more you, more grounded, more capable. But here's the thing, they won't always be big leaps. Sometimes leveling up means resting, saying no, leaving a situation that used to define you. Sometimes growth is letting go of the version of you that needed to prove everything to everyone. That too is evolution. And if you ever catch yourself saying, "I should be further along by now," stop. That voice, it's comparing you to a version of success that doesn't exist. There is no final form, just new stages, new challenges, new depths, and you don't need to rush through them. You just need to keep moving, keep questioning, keep becoming. Because you're not here to stay the same, you're here to stretch, to stumble, to rise, to learn, unlearn, relearn. And every time you do, you unlock a little more of who you're meant to be. The journey to becoming your best self isn't loud or glamorous. It's built in quiet decisions, in moments of courage, in the choice to keep going when it's easier to stay the same. Growth isn't a finish line, it's a way of living. If this message spoke to something in you, there's more waiting. Watch one of the suggested videos on the screen. It might just be the next breakthrough you need. And thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. See you in the next one.